Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining today's masterclass on extended care. My name is Kurt, and I'm your presenter, and today's topic is an important one, and it's one that most people prefer to ignore. Call it long-term care, elder care, extended care, or an aging plan. It all means the same, and it speaks to the issues most of us will face one day and perhaps are facing or have faced with aging family members. Personally, I'm in it now, and I will share my observations and experience. It's a critically important issue and eye-opening if you haven't started work on your extended care plan. Our goal today is to educate you, help you to get organized, and perhaps get you to begin taking steps to address your extended care plan. Before we dive into it, I'd like to provide some useful background information on my company and our team. Turning Point Financial is an independent registered investment advisor. Our home office is located in Frederick, Maryland. We specialize with federal employees, and we work with clients from most of the agencies. The SEC is our regulator, and we are fiduciaries, which is an important question we get asked every day. If you're looking for an advisor, make sure they're a fiduciary. That means we're required by law to put our clients' best interests first. Not every advisor out there is a fiduciary. We're a team of about 25. We have expertise with what we'll be talking about today, as well as financial planning, taxes, insurance, and investments. Everyone's extended care plan encompasses all these areas of your financial life. Next, a little background on me. Again, for any late arrivals, my name is Kurt LaLomia. I'm from Turning Point Financial, and my colleagues and I, we have a real passion for this topic. I'm in my late 50s. I'm married. I have two daughters. They're in their 20s. My wife's parents and my mom are all in their 80s and in generally good health. We lost my dad to cancer 5 years ago, and that was a learning experience that opened my eyes to the value of having an extended care plan. Currently, my wife has an elderly aunt that she's the caregiver for, and we are learning even more from her circumstances. She has what I would call a solid extended care plan, and even with that, there are challenges for the family. Our aunt saved and invested well her entire life, and that has provided her the opportunity to live in a CCRC, or continuing care retirement community. It has everything anyone would need to comfortably age in place. But as I said, there are still challenges, and that's what's been eye-opening to me. I'll address some of those throughout the presentation. Here's a look at our webinar calendar, what we've done this year and what's coming your way later. If you'd like a copy of the slides or a replay of today's presentation or what we've done earlier in the year, shoot me an email. I've got my email address up on this slide. And if you've attended our events before, you know that I like to be upfront, tell you exactly what's going to happen so there are no surprises. Today we have three basic parts to our extended care presentation. First, we're going to cover steps you and your family can take to get all your affairs in order. Second, we'll show how this might personally affect you, because there's many factors with extended care planning that must be considered. We'll have Q&A at the end. You can put your questions in the chat at any time. We want to help you understand the importance of planning and not leaving a tangled mess for your loved ones. As I said earlier, our goal today is general education. I'm not here to sell you anything. By the way, your participation today, it does entitle you to a free consult where we can talk about your unique circumstances and discuss ways that you'll be able to get the information you need. I'll tell you how to schedule that free meeting a little later on. Today I'd like to talk to you all about a subject that, if left unattended to, has the potential to have devastating consequences. This is perhaps no There is perhaps no other unexpected serious event in life that has the potential to cause serious, if not irreversible, consequences to a family than a need for care over an extended period of years. Providing care to a chronically ill person makes healthy caregivers chronically ill. And in many instances, it creates resentment. At least one child will have to put aside their life if a parent is no longer safe. Providing care is rarely shared by siblings, creating friction by those who do and don't. Further, providing care rarely brings siblings together. It tears them apart, causing irreversible consequences to present and future generations. I know all of that was a pretty strong way to start things off, but this is not a delicate subject. One's dignity and independence are what matters most to every individual. And when you begin to lose some or both of those, your quality of life changes dramatically. Our aunt, she's losing some of her independence as she migrates from living comfortably in a two-bedroom apartment to a level of assisted living. There's been some loss of dignity too. She needs help in the bathroom, bathing, getting dressed. It's not easy. And what I'm describing, it's common. It creates stress and it's uncomfortable for the individual and the family. Today's biggest takeaway, it's at the bottom of this slide. It's a loss of our dignity and independence. And that's a big deal. And that's something we all need to give some thought to. Part of the game is being proactive, so you'll be able to make your own choices. You want to take care of things while you can, and you'll get what you want. If you don't, then someone else will be making decisions for you. Further, if you don't handle things, then you'll likely leave your family with a tangled mess. What's a tangled mess? It's a lot of things. It's having to locate accounts, locate passwords, finding the trusted advisors, the doctor, the specialist, the lawyer, financial advisor. What's the estate plan? It could be cleaning a house, making arrangements for continued care, whatever that might look like. A tangled mess is avoided by figuring out what you want, who you'll trust, and how you would want to live out your remaining years. It's a burden, and someone must handle it. Our aunt, as I said, positioned herself perfectly with where she lives and the multiple levels of care and services available. This is her plan, and it works for her, and it takes some burden off the family. That's one of the ways you minimize a tangled mess. Who are you on this slide? This is an unpleasant topic, and it gets put off more than any other. If you've had a long-term care event in your family, and you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, this is your wake-up call. In our experience, there's never a good time, and always some life event, a work project, a family thing that prevents us from taking care of what really needs to be handled. How important is it? How would it make you feel to know that your loved ones will be cared for, looked after, and financially secure after you're gone? Folks, this is a priority, and the time is now. If you wait, it may be too late, and it may never get done. In my role as a financial advisor, we make sure families have an extended care plan. This would include your healthcare directive and power of attorney, which are part of your estate plan. A solid and sound estate plan ensures things go smoother for your loved ones when times get rough. We all need to ask ourselves, who are we on this slide? And if you don't have an estate plan and you need an estate attorney recommendation for your area, just send me an email. Let me know where you live, and I'll send you some names of attorneys we like and use. End-of-life planning or putting together an extended care plan, it's not just uncomfortable, it's very uncomfortable. And that's why we put it off. If you don't get around to it, your family's left to guess about what they think that you would want. But if you do it, you'll get the type of health care you deserve when life becomes difficult. Your last wishes may be fulfilled. You may get the burial and funeral arrangements you want. Your family can continue with their current lifestyle, stay in the current home, and comfortably move on. What we're talking about here, it's at least three things. One, taking care of all the important paperwork that an estate attorney would help you with. Two, working with a financial advisor to ensure all your bases are covered for you and your loved ones. And third, writing out your personal intentions for your health care, your funeral, your burial, and last wishes, and making them known. If you don't handle these three areas, you leave it to chance, and you may be leaving your family with a tangled mess. And that mess, it's emotional, it's financial, it's legal, it's physical, it's mental. There simply is no other way to describe it than a tangled mess. In my family, we always knew that my dad didn't want to spend his final days in a nursing home. That was clear, but many other things were not. I know there's a lot running through your minds right now. Many of us are thinking about our aging parents and how to apply this information to their circumstances. Equally as important, who will care for you when your time comes? Who will go to the grocery store for you, get your mail, pay your bills? Who's going to pick up your prescriptions? As I said, nothing's more important to a person than maintaining their independence and dignity as they go through the aging process. And I hope this is your big takeaway today. Plan, and you'll likely be okay. And if you don't, someone else will be making the tough decisions for you. Find someone to help you work on your extended care plan. I have a checklist for all of you that addresses these difficult topics. Long-term care insurance, that can be a part of the plan, and there's a lot to know, like the 3 different types of long-term care policies that are offered, their benefits, advantages, disadvantages, and of course, cost. We're not going to be getting into that level of detail today, but we know that space well. And if that's something you'd like to learn more about and explore what's appropriate for your family, we'd be happy to meet with you. Further, I speak from experience. I eat my own cooking. My wife and I both have different types of long-term care insurance. It can be expensive, but if you view it through the lens as a piece of your overall portfolio, then it can make sense. Paying for care, it disrupts every plan to secure a sense of financial viability, and it requires a reallocation of resources, which starts with income. Folks, hang with me. This is a lot. It's important. We're going to keep going. Again, if you have questions, put those in the chat. We'll answer those at the end. These are the most important areas to tackle, and I'll give you our thoughts on each. Our physical well-being. Elderly loved ones should be accompanied by another family member for doctor visits. It's an extra set of eyes, ears, and questions that can be asked. Sometimes recording these doctor consultations can be a good idea, especially if specialized care or surgery is required. We did this with my dad, who bravely battled cancer. Another thing, engaging hospice earlier rather than later can be helpful, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. Taking a step back, an open discussion or a family meeting about healthcare is a good idea. And do this before you or your loved ones can no longer dress themselves, feed themselves, get around independently. This is difficult to think about and talk about, but it will be beneficial when the day arrives. And that day arrives for all of us at some point. Our mental well-being, well, the key to longevity is staying engaged. How are your loved ones meeting that challenge? And what will you do when your time comes to stay engaged? One's spiritual well-being, that's a very personal thing. It's important, depends on the person. My dad, he told us where he wanted to be buried, the type of service he wanted. Knowing that made planning much easier. We didn't know his last wishes, But fortunately, they happened, and they happened with the help of hospice, who simply asked, "Who do you want to see?" Hospice made a phone call. My dad got to be with the people that were a part of his final wishes. Our financial and legal well-being, we've already touched on that some with the state attorney and a financial advisor. We have more to say on that later on. Life without these, it causes things to take much longer and oftentimes cost a lot more. We call this a tangled mess in our title because that's what it might become if you don't think ahead. Your spouse, your partner, your kids, a judge, they may have the burden of untangling the mess if you don't have conversations about what you want. As I said, my dad made it clear he didn't want to go to a nursing home. That was good information and a starting point. Have the conversations with your family about what you want and don't want. And again, if you don't have your estate paperwork in order, then it may be the judge who decides what happens. 3 important documents every family needs: a will, a power of attorney, and a medical directive. Don't be this guy. Don't bury your head in the sand. Your family finances are obviously a big part of what we're talking about here today. That's why I'm doing this presentation. But that's only part of it. And we have experience with all these issues because Turning Point is a financial planning firm. Oftentimes, a family's extended care plan, it's a piece of their financial puzzle. And if you've been with us before, you've heard me talk about the financial pieces of the puzzle and how they all fit together. That's how we view financial planning. This is being proactive, and having a plan puts everyone at ease. Not acting, not planning, not having conversations create a tangled mess that leads to chaos. Chaos for your family that must deal with and manage your affairs. Everything's left to chance, and the family will do what it thinks you want. Here's an example. My client had done nothing, no planning, like a lot of people. And it wasn't because we or her family didn't encourage her and address the issues. She just put it off and kept putting it off. She had a stroke. She became immobile and unable to communicate well. It was not a good quality of life. She never saw an estate attorney. So there were no medical directives or powers of attorney. There was some money, but it wasn't easily accessible because she didn't plan. Her family didn't know where all the assets were or how to access them. It took a long time to get things done, working with her banks, her doctors, the hospital legal staff. Last wishes, funeral and burial arrangements, never talked about. Assisted living, rehab centers, a nursing home, or in-home care, those were all great unknowns. It was truly a tangled mess, and that was frustrating, time-consuming, and seemingly endless. Accomplish the littlest things. It's a sad and unfortunate story with an unhappy ending. It was unhappy because much of what her family had to manage and untangle, it could have been avoided. She passed, and her last wishes went unfulfilled because she never told anyone and no one ever asked. She had a simple funeral, which is what her family thought she would have wanted. But was it? No will. That meant the judge decided who received her assets. That took nearly 2 years to unravel. Most unpleasant was the tension and conflicts that arose among family members because everyone had a different idea of how things should be handled. Like I said at the beginning, this is a wake-up call for some of us. And that means getting your estate plan done or updated, meeting with your financial advisor, and most importantly, communication. Communication with your family about their situation or your situation. This is what can happen if you just leave it alone, ignore it, and do nothing. That is not the answer, and no one should do that, even though most of us do. Doing nothing puts your family in a very bad place, and it may cause irreparable damage. You've heard that here today. Making this a priority and setting yourself and your family up for success, that's where we should all strive to be. I have some people that I'm close with. They have their head in the sand. They're doing nothing, and that puts them in a vulnerable position, not just them, but the entire family. Specifically, talking about a family that doesn't have enough life insurance, doesn't have wills, powers of attorney, medical directives, a sort of guardian paperwork in place to spell out who takes care of the minor children. It's not good. And frankly, it frightens me. Talk with us or someone you trust if you need help getting started. Here's another likely scenario, certainly better than our chaos story, but still a tangled mess. Another one of my clients, he typed out his own will, which is better than no will. The will was on the computer. It was deemed not valid. It wasn't printed and it wasn't signed. It made sense. The intentions were clear, but none of that mattered. This created a different type of tangled mess. Again, frustration, anger, confusion, family fighting. It's eventually sorted out by a judge after several months. People often ask us about do-it-yourself estate plans. And our advice, don't do that. It's really a pay for it now or pay for it later scenario. With this story, someone cut a corner to save a few bucks and tried to do it themselves, but they didn't need to. They may have saved, but the family paid. They paid with their time, their frustration, their emotional energy, stress, and the court costs too. So get it done right the first time. Use an estate attorney. The answer is not a product, it's a plan, specifically a financial plan that incorporates an extended care plan. This plan allows you and your loved ones to remain safe in the community while protecting the emotional, physical, and financial well-being. This is done by mitigating two consequences. You want others to provide care, and two, you want someone else to pay for care so commitments can be kept. Moreover, paying for someone to provide care allows it to be supervised by loved ones, and it has a direct and positive impact on the emotional and physical well-being of the caregiver. Potential consequences if you don't plan, well, if there's no will, then the court decides who gets what. If there's no life insurance, the survivors, they may have to move or might be forced to change their lifestyle. If there are not enough assets, not a retirement strategy or a healthcare plan, if the beneficiaries aren't up to date, all that can mean many things, none of which are good. Our plan is called Compass because it provides direction. It addresses all these issues and more so that everyone knows what's supposed to happen and what's possible. A good plan that includes extended care planning will address emotional and physical challenges. It's an investment in your family and an investment in your future. Here's exactly what you need to do. Meet with your estate attorney, and if you don't have one, we can give you recommendations. Are your estate planning documents in order is what matters. As far as cost goes, it's a pay now or pay later deal. Pay now, you get what you want, which is your plan. If you don't do that, get their plan, and it still has to be paid for. Next, talk to your family about accompanied healthcare visits. This is incredibly valuable, provides peace of mind for the entire family. Third, set up a meeting with your financial advisor. And if you don't have one, we'd be happy to talk to you. You might consider including other family members, depending on the circumstances. Assessing life and long-term care insurance, that might be a part of the solution. Long-term care insurance should be viewed as disability insurance for later in life. Your aging plan, who will care for you when you no longer can? This again speaks to working with a variety of trusted advisors to get all your affairs in order. Nothing's more important to an individual than maintaining their dignity and their independence. Lastly, think about and write down your final wishes, your funeral, your end-of-life plans. Share that with a family member. You might also consider a video or a letter for family members. It's my firm belief that everyone needs the type of plan we're talking about, regardless of your age, your net worth, stage in life, whatever. The plan analyzes every aspect of your life. That's life and long-term care insurance. It's taxes, your cash flow, budgets, beneficiaries, and charitable giving. It aligns those areas with your goals, your values, and legacy planning. Wealthy families, they may be able to cover the cost of care, but the following must be considered: unnecessary taxes, market timing, liquidity. Every dollar used for care is one less dollar to generate income. It doesn't matter how much you have or how much you've saved if your health is lacking. This goes back to having our dignity and maintaining our independence. It's all about getting organized, making your wishes known, and a reality. Living a rich life, having a plan in place so that you don't leave your family with a tangled mess. And it's only a tangled mess if you don't have a plan. There's no question, to get all your affairs in order, it takes effort, energy, time, and a few bucks. I've talked about my family and my dad passing 5 years ago. He did put the time in with the estate attorney, with his investments. Type of funeral and burial were known to the family. It was cancer. We had the benefit of some time to do some final planning when the inevitable was clear. Hospice, the hospital bed in the house, the physical and emotional toll on my mom, those were all new unknowns. It was uncomfortable. I call this a peaceful story because some thought went into him leaving this earth and setting my mom up for her remaining years. Today, the family's in a stronger position because she's updated her estate plan. She's set up bank accounts in joint name. Conversations have occurred around her final wishes, her burial ceremony, independence, and dignity. Folks, we've thrown a lot at you today. You wouldn't be here if you didn't think this wasn't important. As we've presented today, there are good and not so good outcomes when we all eventually come to the end of the line. In our experience, the Compass Plan is the best solution. No matter how much or how little organized you are, our process pulls everything together. It entails a review, analysis, and recommendations for every aspect of your financial life, including estate planning and end-of-life planning. My full contact information here on this slide. Feel free to email me any questions. As I mentioned earlier, your participation today, it entitles you to a free consult. Send me an email. We'll schedule some time. Also, I put out a monthly newsletter. It's called Weekend Reads. It's free. Just send me an email if you'd like to subscribe. April's edition, it's going out next Friday. Thank you all for being here today. Appreciate your time and attention. Be safe, stay healthy, and we hope to see you again at future webinars.